Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. We are in the swanky new studio. It's our first ever video interview with the new setup. I'm very excited about this because I'm learning how to use Zoom, which our guest told me is way better than Skype. Skype is easily hacked. I want to introduce our guest, Suzie Dawson. She's the president of the Internet Party of New Zealand that was founded by tech entrepreneur Kim.com and the organizer of Unity for J movement in solidarity with WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Suzie, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Anyone who's just watching this for the first time, there's a whole separate video where Suzie talks about why she got involved and all that. I suggest watching it if you haven't already, just to kind of bring yourselves up to speed. But this video, I very much want to talk about Vault 7. I'm just kind of learning about that. I'm sure many of our viewers know a lot about it, but I'm sure those that don't. So tell us exactly what Vault 7 is and how significant it is.
Okay, so Vault 7 I would describe as the biggest intelligence leak post-Snowden. And it was published by WikiLeaks, whereas the Snowden documents are obviously published by Glenn Greenwald and Intercept. Vault 7 is an ongoing series of releases by WikiLeaks. It was then followed by something known as Vault 8. Vault 7 was particularly interesting because it was leaks from the CIA, whereas Snowden's files were leaks from the NSA. I would just say that there's actually a huge myth that Snowden didn't leak anything on CIA. In fact, the NSA leaks from Snowden contain a myriad of information about CIA operations, and particularly the way that CIA interfaces and works with the NSA. So it's worth checking that out in the Snowden documents. But this Vault 7 is a different kettle of fish. Vault 7 is mostly highly technical documentation around the methods and operations that CIA run against targets. And there is information on tens of thousands of CIA targets in Vault 7, but particularly the ways that the technologies that CIA uses to penetrate and to spy on those targets. And that involved a number of really fascinating pieces of information that verified a lot of things that had been considered conspiracy theory up until those releases are now established and confirmed conspiracy fact.
Like what? What are some of the big ones?
Some of the big ones. One, they can hack into your car, which is particularly interesting in light of WikiLeaks associate Michael Hastings, who is a very famous BuzzFeed reporter who had his reporting had resulted in the resignation of General McChrystal, I believe it was, in Afghanistan, and a huge public stoush with Obama. Michael Hastings was incidentally investigating John Brennan, then head of the CIA, at the time that Michael Hastings' car accelerated out of control on the Los Angeles Boulevard and burst into flames, ejecting its engine back hundreds of meters and incinerating Michael Hastings within 24 hours of him having reached out to his colleagues to say he believed his car was being tampered with, that he believed he was being investigated by the FBI, and also reaching out to WikiLeaks lawyer Jennifer Robinson and telling her that he believed that he was under threat. So the Vault 7 documents show that it is technically confirmed that it's technically possible, and that they've been investigating these techniques and or using these techniques, which was something that had been speculated on in the wake of Michael Hastings' passing, that his car could have been hacked, his Mercedes could have been hacked. That's one aspect. Another is that the CIA can access smart TVs and can use them to spy on people. Exactly,
so
exactly. Just like that very smart TV. They can make the TV appear to be off, and in fact it is on. They can record you through your TV. The TV basically is a computer. A smart TV basically is a computer, just like a modern day car has a computer in it. So they can use that access, that motherboard and tamper with the functions of that piece of equipment, much like they can with all other types of smart devices as well. But the idea of your TV spying on you tracks back to Orwell, and many people had speculated for years that that's what smart devices were doing, or even smart meters. The electricity smart meters that have been installed over the last 8-10 years. Many people had speculated that those could be used for surveillance, and Vault 7 appears to confirm that fact. Another thing that Vault 7 confirms is that when the CIA is performing these hacking operations, that they have the ability to mask the origin of the attack, to mimic as if they were Russian. I believe it was Russian, North Korean, Chinese. They had about 6 different state actors that they could impersonate. So they could lay a false trail to suggest that it was in fact, one of these other countries and not the United States is performing it, which seems particularly interesting when you think about, 2016 election and Guccifer 2. Who everybody is being told had, left Russian fingerprints on these documents, et cetera, et cetera. It turns out that that's standard operating practice for the CIA is to leave, accidentally leave fingerprints of foreign agencies to create deniability for themselves.
Wow. And of course, the corporate media in America isn't talking about that at all. It's just Russia is Russia, Russia, Russia. They're not even bringing up the question of, well, Vault 7 suggests that it could be the CIA leaving a false trail. They're not even suggesting that. And if you do suggest that, you're a Kremlin puppet.
Yes, it's all the Kremlin. Yes, absolutely. Where you will hear that is on really credible news sources like consortiumnews.com or The Nation or Disobedient News, Disobedient Media. Those are the types of news sources that have people like Bill Binney and Ray McGovern asking exactly those same questions and raising those same points. People who, had been in those agencies for 35 years and were fully aware of those types of capabilities, have been courageously, openly speaking about it. But you're correct that the establishment media won't touch it with a barge pole. In fact, will disclaim it.
Wow. Okay, so what else? They can hack our cars. There's evidence that they used it to kill a WikiLeaks.
Well, there's no. We don't have evidence that it was used in Michael Hastings' case. However, a counterterrorism expert had come out at the time and said he believed that it was a signature car hacking episode. And then in Vault 7, we discovered that yes, in fact, they were working on exactly this. To be able to hack people's cars, take over the controls, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the next one is actually pretty massive in its implications, and that is that there is evidence that CIA contractors had obtained the entire database that is known as Aadhaar in India. And what this database is a mandatory biometrics database that contains fingerprints, biometric information of the entire population of the country, one of the most populous countries on Earth. And these biometric systems are being rolled out in Pakistan, a whole slew of countries, and eventually they will be coming to us in the West. There will be enforced biometrics collection of American citizens. And just like we saw with the breach of I believe it was the Chinese, supposed to be Chinese breach of the Office of Personnel Management, the OPM database in the United States a couple of years ago, which contained all of the personal information of every American citizen who had ever applied for a security clearance. That entire database was breached and leaked onto the internet. This is the kind of scale of risk that we're looking at, that not only are these massive databases, not only can they be hacked and leaked, but in the case of the biometric databases, they can contain your iris scans, your fingerprints, your DNA stuff, like everything you can imagine. And then, you look at identity theft and everything else, like this is like next level, next generation. So in India right now, to open a bank account, to purchase a SIM card or a mobile phone, to apply for government food programs, to do anything, you have to show this biometric card. And what Vault 7 showed us is that the CIA had already got their hands on the entire database. So the CIA could genetically impersonate any person, any citizen of the entire country of India with what is 1.3 billion or something like that population. So this is the future that we're staring in the face.
And what's so insane about that is then, of course, the CIA or the State Department or whatever will say, well, it's just security. We're doing it to protect Americans from the evils of terrorism or what, I don't know, whatever their crazy reason is that they sell to people. And that's why they make people like Julian Assange and Snowden and Chelsea Manning into villains. When what they're doing is they're just blowing the whistle on their abuses of power. Yeah, that's. I mean, it's. You can't even say Orwellian. It's past that. I mean, it's crazy. It's madness on a level. Then you just wonder. I don't know, what is their end game. Like what?
Well, I mean, I've been extensively studying the Snowden documents as well as WikiLeaks Vault 7 documents with Elizabeth Lee Voss from Disobedient Media. And what we have seen through our study of those documents is it's not just about privacy or them spying on us. These intelligence agencies are actively subverting every single facet of human existence. And that sounds like a big statement, but let me break it down for you. They are involved with the universities and the tertiary institutions. They are they even were running high school essay contests for what the world will be like in 20 years, and then taking all these kids' ideas for what the world will be like and incorporating them into the NSA's strategic planning documents. Like literally your kid comes home from high school and is like, oh, I can win $200 of this essay contest, and their ideas are ending up in like the strategic planning for the NSA. They are in bed with they have what they call the Global Economic Security Day, where they're in bed with corporations around the world. They're absolutely spying for economic gain. That it's not about terrorism, it's not about national security, it's about money, and economic security. They talk in their documents about how they want to control the strategic direction of technology, of commercial technology itself. They want to control what is released to the public, when it's released to the public, what the capabilities of the equipment are. They want access to that technology long before the public ever gets access to any of it. We know the CIA was spying on the Senate, Intelligence Committee, et cetera, et cetera. We know that they're in bed with politics, in bed with banking and finance, in bed with tech companies, and every area of our lives, education. They have a finger in every single pie and are manipulating it. And I mean, that's the big picture issue here, is that we don't vote them in and we can't vote them out.
Right.
And that has serious ramifications for the entire concept of democracy.
Well, yeah, I feel like democracy, especially in America, is just sort of, it's just like a costume or something. It's not even real. It's just like dress up. It's like we're not, all of these decisions are made by all these unelected officials in secrecy. I mean, we just had, everyone was screaming about, what was going on with Twitter and Facebook. So a bunch of unelected billionaires were deciding First Amendment rights in secrecy. And that's nothing compared to what the intelligence community has been doing. And they are really, I go back to the War is a Racket book by Smedley Butler, who was a general.
Yeah.
Said, we think of it as it's really just post-World War II. Oh man, it's been going on since the 1800s, if not earlier, of him he goes, I was a, what does he call himself? I was a muscle man for whatever, for an enforcer for the corporate interests of the United States. That's, I mean, how many times have we overthrown somebody in the media, or not in the media, but in a country that has a democratically elected somebody? There's some natural resource that America wants, and then there's a coup, or that person suddenly becomes a terrorist. Now, that's what we do now. We say terrorist, and we've been doing this for over 100 years. I mean,
in the NSA documents, they refer to themselves as the business because they see themselves as being a business. It's all about money, about making money. They literally call themselves the business. But they also call themselves the global network. And this is how they view themselves. And they talk about how they want total visibility over the entire planet, every inch of every country on the planet. And they talk about how they can they sign on countries. I mean, I wrote about it in an article. I said they collect countries like baseball cards. And they legislate, and this is what they do. They literally collect. They've been collecting countries like baseball cards, and they have now over 100 countries in their collection. And they legislatively homogenize those countries. So they roll out this spying legislation, and it's exactly the same legislation. The USA Freedom Act, the Australian Data Retention Act, the New Zealand GCSB bill, the UK IP bill. These are all, it's the same freaking. They're passing the same laws, and all these different countries, and in these countries they're sold to us like, oh, you know, New Zealand, it's for New Zealand security, and Australia, it's for Australia's, you know, it's not. It's for the global network to exert their global control. They homogenize all of the countries. So we think like, oh, we have our own independent parliament and our own independent elections. No, we don't. We're run by the same goddamn military dictatorship that is running in 100 other countries as well. And the entire political sphere is the reality TV show.
Yeah.
All of these countless hours on, you know, whatever, cable television, whatever news channels, it's just a spectacle. It's just reality TV, so that you don't understand that all of these countries that we supposedly have diplomatic relationships with or whatever, it's BS. They're all one giant military dictatorship. And there's only now a very short list of countries which are not a part of that military dictatorship. And those are the countries that are on the shit list.
Yeah.
Those are the countries that are targeted, systematically targeted, because they are the last ones to comply with the global regime.
This is like, and I think I've talked about this before, but I think Americans in general are afraid to wake up to this reality because we're the good guys, right? We beat Hitler and we put a man on the moon, and we're, you know, and they just, I think a lot of Americans, and it's why you see, like after the election, the Trump supporters and the Hillary supporters act very similarly. If you point out an actual thing, like, well, Trump didn't drain the swamp, he put all these executives in there, you know, like he put Rex Tillerson as an ExxonMobil in the White House, he gave $1.5 trillion in tax breaks to his rich buddies. They, shut up, you libtard, you know, snowflake. They just immediately dismiss you because they don't want to hear it. And the same thing when you say, well, actually, Hillary Clinton, you know, voted for the war in Iraq. She voted for the Patriot Act. She took $600,000 from Goldman Sachs. The DNC election was rigged. Oh, shut up, you sexist burn, bro. You hate women. And it's like, because I think I equate it to like realizing a family member is like molesting kids or something, or a serial killer. Like you just, I think there's a part of people that just go, nope, I don't want to face that. So yeah, America's not perfect, but it's still a democracy and our vote counts, and the NSA isn't controlling everything. Like they just don't want to hear it. They just don't, like people who were raised Catholic and they find out about the Catholic priest molesting kids and they're just like, nope, just one or two bad priests. It wasn't systematic. The Vatican didn't cover these people up. They just don't want to face it. I think it's just a part of human nature of just like when something's so awful, it's easy to just push it off. And
and it seems so big. I agree, because it seems so big, and it's like, well, what can we do about it?
Right.
But you also can't ignore it, and millions of people are realizing they can't ignore it. And you can also explain it to people in quite simple terms. Like I love saying to people, you know, why is democracy one vote every 4 years when you can vote on American Idol every Sunday night?
Every Sunday night. Why, on your phone.
Why is it that you can vote on who's the best singer, you know, once a week, but you're only allowed to have a say in the political future of your country once every 4 years? Do you really think that the technology doesn't exist for them to be able to, you know, do you really think that should be the sum total of your like civic engagement? It makes no sense.
Why can't we vote on a Sunday for the President of the United States of America when no one's working? Why do we have to do it on
Why can't you vote for the passage of the bills that are going through the Congress or through the Senate, you know, going through the House? Why can't you have some kind of direct democracy model like we're seeing now in Switzerland and Estonia and some other alternate, you know, areas? The technology exists to remodel democracy, to evolve democracy, but instead we're just spoon-fed the same crap that has been going on for however many hundreds of years. And then you look back at, just taking it back to the Vault 7 releases, the Vault 7 releases show that Apple and Android phones have a whole fleet of exploits for both operating systems. Likewise with Windows and Macs, they're completely pwned in every way, shape or form. There's every kind of exploit you can imagine for your camera, your sound, your browser, your, you know, files and emails and everything. They can access, absolutely, not just access it, they can operate your devices at a whim themselves, whether you think the device is on or off or whatever. They can do this. And then you think to yourself, hang on a second, there's 6 billion people on this planet. Why is it that every single person has an Apple phone or an Android phone? How can it be that there's only 2 mobile operating platforms for 6 billion people? Doesn't it defy logic? Wouldn't you think that maybe more than 2 operating systems would be created when there's 6 billion people on the planet? So why do you think it is? Who do you think it is that has wanted to make sure that there's only 2 operating systems on the entire planet?
I mean, we could go on down the line. I mean, it's so they're, you know, and phones, they all of, you know, these poor third world countries where they can't seem to figure out water and jobs, but they can put a $500 phone in their hands somehow. They can figure that out. They can figure out how to get them phones. I mean, it's like the whole thing with the why can't we cure this disease and that disease and this disease? Because I remember one of the people from Goldman Sachs, they invest a lot in pharmaceutical companies, gave a speech and he just said, well, curing diseases isn't profitable. I mean, he just flat out said it. So it's like there's probably cures to who knows what out there, like, and we're just being repressed technologically. I mean, that's the thing. I have such mixed feelings with technology. How awesome is it? You and I are talking. We're on other ends of the planet. We're on other ends of the planet and we're talking now. This is amazing. But then, of course, they manipulate this and they can bastardize this. They're probably watching right now, right there, NSA. And I don't know. I'm sort of going off on a tangent here, but like it's this is the thing, going back to why people, I think, don't want to deal with it, because it does feel overwhelming that they can control all of this and they have access and there's only 2 cell phone platforms. Then I feel like that opens the doorway for apathy, for people to go, wow, what am I can do? I'm just one person. I got my little job. What can I do? So But
Julian Assange was one person, and Edward Snowden was one person. You know, and for whatever my minor contribution has been, I'm one person. Ditto with you. You're one person, and you know what? When you add us all up, there's shitloads of us. So it is totally about standing in solidarity with each other and about backing each other up. And it doesn't have to be like this. We can create our own independent solutions. Like Kim.com actually is working right now on making it a whole new internet platform that exists completely outside of the mainstream internet paradigm, so that we are not dependent on them, so that we're not using their tapped cables, and so that they can't do what they have been doing with our hardware and with our networks. But the answer to why there's only 2 mobile operating platforms is that there isn't. There's been thousands of them. But any that actually get traction, any that actually get R&D funding, either bought out and trashed. Just like, why wasn't there hydroelectric cars 35 years ago? Why 40, 50 years ago? You know, why is it taken till now for there to be electric cars? Why? this is the same thing. These intelligence agencies have been behind the suppression, the active suppression of technology, the active manipulation of the strategic direction of technological development for decades and decades. And interestingly, Julian, I want to just explain that Julian, when he released the first Vault 7, the password on the file that was released was we'll scatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces. What was it? And blow it into the wind or something. It's the famous JFK quote. Oh, yeah. That JFK had said he's going to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the wind. Before he was assassinated, that was the famous quote from him about the CIA. And Julian actually said, there's a statement in his release of Vault 7, he said, we don't want our sources being hacked by these tools. And that was why they went ahead and did the Vault 7 releases, because WikiLeaks understood that these targets are vulnerable people. These targets aren't terrorists. Mm-hmm. These targets are activists, are journalists, are whistleblowers, are truth tellers. And WikiLeaks, has stood up. The very small organization has stood up against these massive powers and held them at bay for 8 years. So if enough of us throw our weight behind them, we have a shot in that fight. We've got a serious chance in that fight.
Well, Suzie, I thank you so much for your time, and I really applaud all the work you're doing, and thank you for shedding some light on Vault 7 to any of the people out there that aren't familiar with it. And to those who are, here's some more information about it. So where can people go for the Unity for J vigils, and where can people learn more about you?
You can learn more about the Unity for J movement to support Julian Assange, Editor-in-Chief of WikiLeaks, at unity4j.com. That's unity4j.com. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Suzie, SUZI, 3 letter D. And yeah, that's about it. I would say go to Wiki. I hear these things all the time. There's always this narrative circulated about WikiLeaks. Oh, they didn't report anything on Israel. They didn't report anything on 9/11. Blah, blah, blah. If you go to wikileaks.org and in the search bar type Israel and press enter, you find 600,000 documents on what Israel's been up to. You search 9/11, you'll find the entire page of transcripts from the 9/11 first responders. Like, do your research about WikiLeaks. Don't believe what people tell you about it. Don't believe, for God's sakes, don't believe what you hear in the press about it. Right. Go and do your research yourself, because this is an invaluable organization that has given this generation access to information on a scale that has never been seen or had before in human history, and we've got to treasure it and protect it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and everybody out there. You are all, as I tell you, you're all political vigilantes. You are all getting involved. Like she said, Julian Assange was one person. Rosa Parks was one person, and on down the line. That guy that stood in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square, that was one person. That was one person. So I'm one person, Suzie is one person, and together we're a bunch of people. So I appreciate it. And of course, please like and subscribe to these videos. YouTube is throttling. My subscription has been stuck at 9,700 for 2 months, that's Google doesn't want independent media to talk. So if these were cat videos, I'd probably have 30,000 goddamn subscribers. So I'm going to maybe do some cat videos, but they'll just be talking about socialism and see maybe if I can get some more views or something like that. Just like, that's what I should start doing, like a puppet show, or just like, there's an oligarchy, and they won't know. They won't search it. I just thought of a new idea. We're going to start doing that on Political Vigilante. So go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood, because I need your support. They've throttled my money by about 60–70%. I stopped with the Amazon affiliate codes because I felt I was being hypocritical. I don't want to support CIA buddy Jeff Bezos. So we need your help on patreon.com. Thank you so much for watching. And Suzie, thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you so much.